And we're live. What's going on, everyone? It's Talks with Kenny, episode 57. And we're going to talk about why some vote. I want to give my shot. I want to give a shot at the dark in this one. I want to try to guess why some people would vote for Biden. Biden. Why would you vote for Biden? I think at this point, many people know that Biden is most likely a figurehead president. You see multiple gaffes of him just looking lost, looking senile, and I think it's elderly abuse what they're doing to this guy. But I mean, end of the day, I think if I were to give a TDR, don't like too long, don't read or don't watch. My stance here is that most people are voting for the establishment behind him, right? They will say, "Hey, I don't care if it's a teacup with a D. I'd rather vote for that than uh, President Trump." And I think it's mostly driven by emotionalism. But I kind of want to lay out, I won't spend too much time because I'm not feeling too well, but I want to lay out the groundwork for how many people come into this perception. They see not Trump. That's pretty much it. Um, but I want to get this because if you watch like my video, my pre-recorded video for Friday. Sorry guys, I'm not feeling too good. I talk about how Dr. Phil humanized Trump. And that interview that Dr. Phil did. If Trump do a lot more of those videos, it'll be a lot harder for the mainstream media to craft their narratives around Trump. And I think the reason why the not Trump, oh, he's better than Trump is just because of the fact that mainstream media projects such a negative image of Trump. And I want to get into this story with James O'Keefe, who happened to expose Good Morning America's producer claims that Truth has a liberal bias. The Truth has a very overwhelmingly has a liberal bias. This is something that this producer, the segment producer for booking, says about um, journalism. In his latest undercover video release, James O'Keefe, Keefe Media Group, exposed Good Morning America's producers, admitting that the show selects stories and contributors that align with their leftist political bias. And I think this is one of the biggest reasons why some voters see what they see in Biden is a narrative, something constructed by the mainstream media. And like I said, I'm not going to spend too much time like really deep diving on things. I kind of want because I want you guys to get some commentary of people who actually think that Biden's good for the country, he's a good president, all this nonsense, right? I show this article a lot. Media bias, pretty much all journalism now leans left. Study shows this was made in 2018. If you're talking about my data is outdated, if I'm referencing outdated data, please give me the new updated data that points to the same damn thing. Because nothing much changed in 7 years if did my math correctly. And I just want to fast forward to the media's conservatives endangered, right? What about the mythical conservative financial journalists? In fact, a mere 0.46% of financial journalists call themselves very conservative. The reason why they're mentioning financial journalists because financial stuff has always been seen as, oh, that's where the conservatives live. Budgets, accounting. It's known for a very conservative culture, and they're using this as an example to point out how left journalism actually is. While this is the most conservative. While just 3.9% said that they were somewhat conservative, that's a whopping 4.4% of the total that leans right of center. That's a ratio of 13 liberals for every one conservative. That, my friend, is mainstream media bias. So this same mainstream media bias is sitting here telling you that, oh, Trump is bad. Trump is the worst thing since sliced bread, right? The truth. These are the people that say the truth has a liberal bias. They say dumb ish like this because they're just around people with the same ideology as them. Now, Donald Trump's conviction was expected to sink him in the polls. It hasn't. Expected according to who? And this is the problem I have with a lot of people on the left is that they make these like claims. Oh, um, the truth has a liberal bias. And I'm like, no, you have a liberal bias. Because end of the day, it seems like the journalist only wants to point out it's selection bias, but they only want to select things that goes along with their narrative. And this is the kind of conflict that a lot of people are pointing out, and the mainstream media seems to not have catch notice of. But I digress. I want you to check out this clip from James O'Keefe of him, pretty much the producer in his own words, really exposing what they do behind the scenes. I may skip around just to further illustrate my point, and then we'll dive in deeper.
truth
Biden didn't do anything
very
wrong.
overwhelmingly
Yeah.
has a liberal bias.
The right wing people.
Yeah, those kinds of people are not necessarily based in reality, in my opinion.
What are they based in?
Ideological dogma.
Yeah.
So I want to counter out this point. Ideological dogma. Who's more ideologically dogmatic, the left or the right? The left. I will say the left. Why? Because if you look at the political discourse in the left, anyone who don't fall in lockstep with the political ideology of the left instantly gets cast off as to the right. This is what happens to a lot of these classical liberal types. This is what happened to um, Dr. Phil. You can't give an honest interview. You can't give just a fair interview to Trump, or else you're seen as, oh, you're conservative, you're right wing now. That's why I said that the dumbest political strategy that the Democrats ever did was make common sense right wing. The dumbest thing they can do. But they have the goal, their producers have the goal to sit here and say, oh, right wing people, they have ideological dogmas. You know, bigotry, hatred, ignorance. Those are subjective claims you're making. You don't have no proof of this this bigotry, hatred, ignorance. I'll say the Democrats are hatred, bigoted, ignorant. They're bigoted against Christian people. They're bigoted against religious people. They're bigoted against people who don't necessarily align with them 100% of the time. They're ignorant about a lot of facts. They like to call you a science denier because you like to, if you're skeptical of any of their agendas, like climate change, socialism, right? I say it, the how you say, the interests of the government. Liberals are very trusting of the government to a degree. And if you put any skepticism on these public servants, oh my God, you're such an Neanderthal. Oh, big tech's not censoring you. Then 4 years down the line, you find out big tech was censoring you. Twitter files. But the truth has a liberal bias. The truth doesn't have a bias. The truth is just is. It doesn't pick sides, right? Because end of the day, what makes someone biased? Anyway, we're all biased here, right? And this is where the left f's up a lot, and this is where you're gonna see a lot when, because on this live stream we're gonna cover some left wing commentators and see there's some of their opinion why they believe Biden will win, and I think it's a good time for people to hear all perspectives, and I think that's something I'm gonna try to do a lot more on this channel to so you guys can hear what the other side is actually saying. And even see some of the comment section of these left wing commentators and how these people perceive and interpret reality. Because for the left, perception is reality. While for me, my perception isn't reality. That's the difference. That's the difference of perspective between the left and the right. The right adheres to something bigger than themselves, while the left only adhere to things for themselves. Right? They is this perception. I forgot the Bible. The Bible has some timeless wisdom about human nature. If you don't worship God, aka you don't worship something outside of yourself, you'll end up worshiping yourself. And whatever benefits yourself, aka the truth has a liberal bias, you cloud out, you filter out all the truths that are inconvenient to your bias, to your perspective, your prescription, to your worldview. This is what happened with climate change. This is why one of my biggest arguments is that the mainstream media, they know they control the distribution of knowledge. And this is why this segment producer, he only books people that follow along with his ideological wheelhouse, that falls within his Overton window, per se. They know that guest may push them a little bit, but they're still within the acceptable range of disagreement because they effectively have become gatekeepers. And I got some stories queued up as well to highlight this fact that the facts don't have a bias. Facts just exist. Facts is just is. If you test your theory in reality and reality keeps showing your theory is wrong, you must accept your theory is wrong. But the left will interpret the failings of their theory as, oh, you didn't do it right. This is how ideologically dogmatic the left is. But they like to project what they're doing onto the right. And you'll see a lot of instances of that too. And I think this is why some voters vote for Biden, because they have this perception that no, Biden's not that bad. Oh, anyone's better than Trump. That's not a take in reality. That's not really an objective take. But these just journalists, they're gonna keep pretending that they're objective. And I think the most honest thing a journalist can do is accept that, hey, I have some preference. I have some political preferences. The best I can be is honest. And I think that's the future. But I digress. I think I'm rambling too long because I don't want to spend too much time on this video because there's a lot we got to cover into this live stream.
You know, bigotry,
Bigotry, yeah.
Hatred.
Yeah, hatred.
ignorance. They'll like try to infiltrate news or whatever and say like, oh, we're gonna cut footage out of context to like make him seem bad. It's, you know.
So they're right wing crazy.
Oh yeah.
So I paused the video because remember he saw the clip. He said, "Oh, they clip things out of context." Who who clips Biden out of context? Let me wait. I'll wait. Who clips Biden out of context? I just want to know. Can you name me one person who clips Biden out of context? Now let's switch to Trump. Right? Remember, we're doing an honesty test, and this is how you test for consistency. This producer here, this arrogant producer who said, "Oh, facts have a liberal bias." This man said that right wing people clip their opponents out of context. But who's more guilty of that? How many times Trump been clipped out of context? How many times they left out a lot of crucial segments out of Trump's speech to try to project a narrative around what Trump said? Remember the bloodbath? He said, "Yo, if you vote in Biden, it's gonna be an economic bloodbath." They just clip out the part where he said bloodbath and they say if Trump says, and they put a headline, Trump says if he don't win, it will be a bloodbath. But the truth has a liberal bias. More like you're trying to, when the truth is inconvenient to your bias, you cut out the parts that serve you and you cut out the parts that don't. This is the mainstream media. This is who this is who majority of Americans are being influenced by. People like in the View. The View plays the same thing. The narrative machine. And I think if America wants to get back to a place where, rationality wins again, common sense wins again, we're united as a country. We don't see each other as enemies fighting over seats of power. For us to get back to that in America, there needs to be more if I'm allowed to use the word, more diversity in who distributes knowledge. Because right now, majority of these mainstream media websites and stuff, they're ran by journalists. I'm gonna show you again. They're ran by journalists. The most left-wing profession, despite journalists' denial, is now pretty much a fact that journalism is one of the most left-wing professions. These are who control mainstream media. NPR, who's supposed to be a neutral, centrist news organization, who's their CEO, made a veteran newspaper guy who been around in that company longer than probably she's been alive, made him quit because he's like, yeah, too much bias. You're filtering out stories that don't serve you. You want to craft the narrative. You want to focus on the fact that Trump's a convicted felon, right? But you don't highlight the fact that, hey, Trump isn't the first politician to do this. Bill Clinton did this. Bill Clinton paid the lady he had sexually harassed or had sex with as president in 1998 $850,000. That wasn't a crime then. Why is it a crime now? And this is not illegal. Paying somebody in a non-disclosure agreement is not illegal. If that was the case, everyone who's ever left a corporate job can technically sue their corporations for putting them under non-disclosure agreements. But Donald Trump does it, and you try to make it seem like, oh, he falsified business record in an attempt to conceal hush money payments. Then Bill Clinton did the same thing. So why I ain't prosecuting Bill Clinton? And Bill Clinton did it first. Rules for D and not for D, and this is why it backfired. This is why they say, "Oh, it was expected." Liberals are more likely to disassociate with people who do not share the same political ideology as them. So, which side sounds more ideological dogmatic, Mr. Nick, producer of Good Morning America, who sounds more ignorant, Nick the producer of Good Morning America? It's you guys. You guys are the pot calling the kettle black. And they say that we don't understand what people are doing because you're in your own little bubble. And then in your field where it's mostly dominated by people of the same political ideology as you You guys go, I don't see how anyone can vote for Trump. I say Biden has the most emotional voters, really. And these people condition the hatred for Trump because if you look at stats, if you look at the coverage, news media covered Trump 80% of the time negatively. I'll repeat that again, negatively. That's why that Dr. Phil episode, that's why so many of the left is going after Dr. Phil because they felt betrayed. Oh, you gave him a fair interview. Oh, no. You might actually humanize the man. People might actually have a nuanced perception of Trump. No, they have to view Trump all bad. And they have to see our guy Biden all good. This is the narrative that the mainstream media has been pushing on the American populace. Hey, what I tell you. Hey, so I'm gonna let this video play out a little bit more. I think I wanted to find a certain spot in the video because he said something that I forget where exactly in the video, but oh, if it takes too long, I might just skip it actually. Never mind. I'll skip it because I think I made my point here. And you can watch the rest. Is James O'Keefe, he exposed admitting exposing dude pretty much for his bias because that's what it is, his bias. Liberals think their perception is reality, which is not, right? And if you don't come to the same perception as them, they'll call you a bigot. That's the pretty much. I summed up the entire argument of the left. So here's an example of what they got wrong, pretending that the facts have a liberal bias. It goes in one direction. Mainstream, conservative media is ideological dogma. They cut things out of context. They skew perception. Okay, to feed into their outrage machine. People are outraged because you lied to them. What there's a comment I saw. If you want to make a conservative angry, you lie to them. If you want to make a liberal angry, you tell them the truth. This is the truth. Y'all came out. Y'all said this Hunter laptop story was Russia disinformation. After your guy wins, right? Because there's articles explaining this. You guys had a whole little cabal. Y'all mail each other. We can't let this information, guys. We can't let this information get out because our guy has to win. Sam Harris, sorry. Our guy has to win. This information is going to hurt our guy. And end of the day, Trump is that bad. We can't let Trump win. So we're going to hide this. We're going to hide this information. We're going to discredit this information, even if there's a possibility that it could be correct. It could be actually true. This cannot get in the way of our guy winning. And that's what they did. And then they'll sit here in your face and tell you that they're objective. They're trying to inform the people. And they wonder why a lot of people lost respect for journalism, why people don't respect journalists anymore, why journalists are considered propagandists nowadays, especially if you're in the mainstream media, because that's what you are. You're the arm of the Democratic Party. Because anything that's unfavorable to Democrats, you don't point it out. You don't ask them questions. You don't give them pushback. I have yet to see an interview where a journalist challenged the Democrats and say, hey, do you believe that this is political prosecution you're doing against Donald Trump? Do you believe there's some Americans that believe that you are unfairly prosecuting Trump based on political grounds in New York, where it's overwhelmingly a Democratic stronghold? Are you not fear the perception that this prosecution is giving for your party? I have never heard a mainstream journalist ask a Democrat that question. And then they want to pretend that they're impartial, that they're only giving you information, that they're only giving you the truth. It's a load of crap. Here's one example.
Here's a really important scene that played out. It was the moment a MacBook 13 was walked across the courtroom wrapped in plastic. The prosecutor showed it to a federal agent. The federal agent looked at the serial numbers and said, this is Hunter Biden's laptop. Here's what we were told about Hunter Biden's laptop.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And that's exactly what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what.
This is where he's.
Was that your laptop?
For real, I don't know.
I know, but you
my
know
point
that's
is,
this.
I
is
really don't know.
Okay.
The answer is.
You
That's
don't
the
know
truthful
yes
answer.
or no if the laptop.
I don't have
was
any
yours.
idea. I have no idea.
So
whether or
could
not.
have been yours.
Of course, certainly. There could be a laptop out there that was stolen from me. There could be that I was hacked. It could be that it was Russian intelligence. It could be that it was stolen from me.
Did you leave a laptop with a repairman
Not
in
that I
Wilmington?
remember.
Not that you remember.
No. But whether or not somebody has my laptop, whether or not it was I was hacked, whether or not there exists a laptop at all, I truly don't know.
Are you missing a laptop?
Not that I know of.
Verify clarified yesterday. 51 intel officers told us it was the hallmark of disinformation. The New York Post, one of the most widely circulated newspapers in the country, was banned. The future president of the United States told us it was all a lie.
Imagine banning a newspaper organization based on a lie. I don't know. I think Twitter did that. Imagine that. Like sit and imagine that. This is why some voters vote for Biden. This is why. This is why some, because they didn't have the information. There's polls that show that if people knew of the Hunter Biden laptop story and it was actually covered accurately, aka, hey, yeah, this is actually Biden's laptop. Hey, it has all this stuff in it. They say they would have changed their vote for Biden. A lot of people would change their vote for Biden. Think about that. I think what a lot of voters see in Biden is just a narrative, a brand, an image carefully crafted by the mainstream media so that he's votable. But the minute people get the truth about Biden, some of the information, this is why the media don't like to cover Biden's gaffes, or they try to make excuses for Biden's gaffes by pointing out how someone else gaffed. But Biden's out here looking like a senile old man. There's no amount of gaffe that Trump or Kevin McCarthy can do that can create some false equivalency to that. And they're trying so desperate to mask this up, but you can't do it. It's impossible. You can't do it. Like this is a national embarrassment. I think all Americans should be
guests, please welcome.
Embarrassed by this. That people think, oh, this is what the Americans has out there representing them. Laughing stock of the world.
The Honorable Lloyd J. Austin.
Now he's not pooping. I don't think he's trying to poop. I'm just saying. It looked like he just wanted to sit down because his legs tired. Okay. Another clip that's going on right here. Like, does this man look aware to you? He's like, where I'm supposed to go? Where I'm supposed to go? The FBI just admitted in court that Hunter Biden laptop is real. Here's 20 minutes of Joe Biden, U.S. intelligence officials, and the American media claiming that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. 20 minutes, right? But Kenny, the producer from Good Morning America just told us that that the facts have a liberal bias. The truth has a liberal bias. And that the right-wing media outlets clip things out of context to cause outrage for people. No. The outrage is people's reaction to them being deceived by the mainstream media. That's the outrage. We're not causing the outrage. You getting access to this information and finding out that it was intentionally hidden from you. That's what causes the outrage. What do some voters see in Biden? Is nothing more than a scapegoat. Oh, this is going to be the vehicle to press all our extremism. He's an empty suit. Figurehead Joe. That's his new name. Figurehead Biden. Because he's going to take a fall for all the negative effects, all the negative blowback from progressive policies, and we still get our way. He's gonna be the fall guy. That's what Joe Biden is. That's what some voters see in him. He's going to be the fall guy to push our most extreme, our most radical agenda on the American people. We'll lie for him. We'll hide inconvenient evidence and facts that point to the fact that he could be guilty with using his politics as a service, aka using his position as a service. Hey, you pay my son this X amount of dollars, and I'll fire the Ukrainian prosecutor. I'll keep Russian oligarchs out of the blacklist. All you gotta do is pay my son $4.6 million. And oh, what a coincidence! The lady's not on the blacklist. Oh, what a coincidence! The prosecutor got fired. But no. We can't let the American people hear this because we want our guy to win. Journalists, the most leftist profession in the world, where only 4.4% are conservative. That means 96% of journalists on any given day, for the most part, are liberal. And we got to make sure our guy wins. Sam Harris told you the playbook already. We all saw it when we heard the 100. This is Sam Harris word for word. When Sam Harris and them heard about the Hunter Biden laptop story, the first action they were like, "Nah, people can't hear this. People can't see this. We got to discredit this. We don't know for sure if that's actually his laptop, but it can't come out now because Biden has to win. We don't want this to interfere with the election." That's what they said about the Hunter laptop story. So they call it flake. They call it Russian disinformation. Russia's at it again. When Trump tries to bring it up, they censor him, say, "Oh, that is not proof. There's no proof that is Hunter Biden's laptop." But it's not wrong. But it's not false. And that's the funny part about these gotcha fact checkers, journalists that they love to do. They love to claim that, oh, something's unproven, but it doesn't mean it's false. If I say God exists, oh, Kenny, that's unproven. Yeah, but you can't say it's false. Because to claim something is true or false, you need proof. So the fact that they went out here and said, "Oh, this is not Biden's laptop story," it is false. And then in the notes it says, "Oh, because it is unproven if whether or not this is actually Hunter Biden's laptop story, it is unfair to subscribe that this laptop belongs to therefore son of Vice President Joe Biden at the time." That's what they were telling you. Here you go. I'll let you listen to 1 minute of the 20-minute clip. Let's go.
And tonight, the Trump campaign is accusing Twitter and Facebook of censorship after the social media companies blocked the spread of an unverified story about former Vice President Joe Biden's son and a laptop allegedly full of his old emails.
Now, here's the hypocrisy. There's rumors about how Trump said the N-word during one of his clips about the apprenticeship. No video evidence, nothing, but those rumors are allowed to spread. But the Hunter laptop story, when New York Post broke that, they got banned. People who try to share it got censored. Facebook disabled links to the website on their app. Sorry. But this is the media that said they're objective. The truth has a liberal bias. No, it doesn't. The truth just is. The truth stand without any is unpartisan. It doesn't care how convenient it is, how inconvenient it is. It just exists. And the left, the mainstream media, worked so hard to try to discredit the story, try to minimize the story, try to absolve the importance of the story so it wouldn't influence the election. Because they know if people knew, there's polls that show this, if people knew about this story, if it was allowed to spread organically, Biden would have lost 2020. I stand on that.
It's a story raising concerns about whether it's real or just designed to sow confusion in the final weeks of the election.
Experts say it has all the hallmarks of information laundering.
This looks like your classic disinformation campaign.
Eric O'Neill is a former FBI operative.
Steal the information with a cyber attack, get the emails from Hunter Biden.
Now, I think we've heard enough. But these are the same people who said, "Oh, look, trust the experts, trust the experts." But how many times the experts got to be wrong, bro? This have all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. They didn't say it was Russian disinformation. They say it has all the markings. You see, we're kind of skeptical at the time if it was real or not, but they never play that same game when negative information comes out for Trump. They never play that same game. You never noticed that? When Trump was getting clipped out of context, they never played this game of, no, Trump didn't say this, Trump didn't say that. It's only after they get challenged publicly do they retract their story or they make an adjustment or they clarify. Right? Morning Joe host dragged for claiming that Biden is sharper than Kevin McCarthy. Now, imagine getting dragged. This is how biased the liberal media is. Imagine getting dragged to try to defend that Biden is sharper than Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy is so sharp that people couldn't trust him to the point where Matt Gaetz kicked his ass out of being Speaker of the House. But you're going to say Biden is sharper than that guy. That guy that was so dangerous that Matt Gaetz was like, "Nah, get this man out of here, bro." Because this man... But that's who Biden is sharper than? Look at the narratives they create. This is what people like legitimately. Look at this. Morning Joe. These are all well-known, established news programs. Good Morning America. painted as a centrist. Everyone knows what Good Morning America is. But you got a producer that's essentially filtering out what information the American people at large have access to and not. And this goes back to a quote that I remember reading in one of my books about Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass said, "A man who can read is forever free." And it's not the fact that you can read is what makes you free. It's the fact that no one can restrict your access to information. And I think that's the most important thing that the internet has given to a lot of people. Because now you can hear other alternatives. When people have their choice, who they rather listen to, they rather listen to people in their bedroom talking about politics, highlighting different cases, different stories, different perspectives. Because the mainstream media, they all talk the same, they all walk the same. You know what they're about already. Like, you know they was going to defend Biden, right? This is George Scarborough. I had spent a good amount of time talking to Kevin McCarthy throughout the years and hours with Joe Biden in 2024. There's no comparison. Biden is far sharper, more intelligently curious, and far more insightful on global affairs than any House GOP speaker I've ever met over 30 years. He expected to get credibility for that. Here's the pushback. The entire justification for him not being charged with federal crimes was that he's too old and forgetful. Sounds like he's good to be indicted. Oh, no. When this is what I'm talking about. The truth has a liberal bias. That's the truth. The pushback from Sonny is the truth. He got absolved from getting prosecuted for federal crimes because the council said he was too old and forgetful and it wasn't his fault. AKA, hey, he's not mentally all there. And I just showed you some clips of him. Where do I go? Biden's just a prop, bro. And they're telling you, they're literally like, mainstream media is literally gaslighting people. And if you're not like me, I'm a naturally distrusting person. So this ain't gonna work on me. You need to prove your stance with me. They keep telling us how sharp he is, and Biden keeps letting us down because we all have eyes and ears. What do some voters see in Biden? That's a question that you always have to ask yourself. Because look, I'm curious. What do voters see in Biden? Maybe an opportunity to push the Green New Deal. Biden struggles to function during closed-door meetings with officials report. But he's sharper than attack. He's intellectually insightful and curious. Biden's war on oil and gas has cost the U.S. $250 billion in lost GDP growth. You wonder why the economy is doing so bad? Because Biden's doing something counterproductive. Oil and gas is the most cost-effective energy source that we have available. Without that cost-effective energy source called oil and gas, we would not be able to maintain the current lifestyle that we have today. You see all these lights burning until however long into the night you have? At any moment, you could turn on the light switch and light will turn on. That's because of oil and gas. For years, government's been wasting money, billions of dollars on green energy, solar and wind energy. And you know how much amount of the infrastructure relies on green energy, solar and wind? 5%. And they've been pushing this stuff since what? 2000s. 20-something years, they've been pushing, decades, giving subsidies, giving special treatment. This is why I hate government subsidies. Because whenever government creates an incentive, don't be surprised about the outcome. If government creates an incentive, hey, we want to give free tax credit to, AKA, we're going to give taxpayer money to private businesses, what's the incentive? You're creating people say, oh, there's a good business opportunity, I'm going to take it. You give the chance for them to crony up and say, hey, go start a solar wind company. Wink, wink. Obama, I think he funded some solar company and it went under. Wasted taxpayer money trying to get solar and wind to catch up to the cost effectiveness of oil and gas. That's why we lost $250 billion. But there's some voters out there that they see this as a good thing. They see this as a good thing that we losing $250 billion in GDP growth is a small step for the good of the planet. When this week I just did a video showing studies that prove that global warming is essentially a myth. 2023 was the hottest year in our in our history, and the degree was 0.2. 0.2 degrees hotter. Wow. I really felt that one. When climate change is supposed to be tied in on how it threatens the survival and the existence of human beings. And last time I checked, I'd rather it be warmer than colder. More people die of cold than heat. What I care about is climate danger. Hey, is the climate dangerous to human beings? If the answer is no, I don't care about the temperature being 0.2 degrees hotter than it was last year. And that's your hottest year in 40 years? 0.2? 0.2? That's why in the headlines, they don't tell you the actual number. They don't give you the actual nuances. They just give you the headline. Hottest year in history. It is now undeniable. They don't tell you how every catastrophic climate disaster that's been predicted has failed. 41 times these climate activists, these climate scientists, these so-called climate experts has predicted that some natural climate disaster is going to happen. They 0 for 41. 0 for 41. Imagine someone having a track record where 41 times they made a claim and they have never been right. And you expect me, when you bring these climate change experts in my face, and they give me another prediction of how you shouldn't have kids. Your kid's not going to make it to 12 years. I'm supposed to have climate anxiety because I don't know how the state of the climate is going to be. All I have to do is look at history. Since the 60s, y'all been saying some catastrophic stuff about the climate, and y'all been wrong every single time. Because your projection numbers over-exaggerate things. Because the reality is climate change is meant to fearmonger people into giving control of their lives to the government. That's all it is. That's why I said it's a pretext. It's a Trojan horse. Climate change is a Trojan horse. Emotional voting. That's what some voters see in Biden. All they gotta do, all the Democrats gotta do is sell you an emotional message. And this is the cost. This is the cost of your green energy. The GDP go down. We have a less stronger economy. Inflation whooping our butts, all of us. And the mainstream media keeps trying to tell you, no, we're not in a recession. Even though in 2022, we had back-to-back quarters of negative GDP growth, and that usually signifies a recession. And the mainstream media gaslighted all of America, saying, no, we're not in a recession. Technically, that's not the technical definition of recession. But in 2008, when Obama was president, that was fine. We was able to designate his economy as a recession when that same event happened. What changed? Narrative. They wanted you to interpret it a different way. And this is the biggest focus of this whole live stream is interpretation. It seems like interpretation will decide the election, not truth. Sad to say it. Interpretation will. Who can convince the American people of their interpretation? If you believe the mainstream media's narrative on things, you vote in Biden. If you see the truth for what it is, even if you're in the middle or you're on the right, you know, hey, evidence suggests that our lives objectively was better under Trump than Biden. But just because you on the left, some people on the left, prioritize different things than I do, does not make me wrong. It means you value things differently than conservatives and people in the middle do. You don't care if America loses $250 billion in GDP growth. As long as Biden waged war on oil and gas, that's all you care about. No cost is too great. Same thing with the population collapse. You don't want people reproducing, having marriages and having babies is a far right ideal. Then take yourself out of the gene pool. But don't come sit here and tell me how to raise my children. That's where you cross the line, lefty. And it's the funny part about the left. They don't like taking the trade-offs of their decision making. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They don't want people to have kids, but the people who choose to have kids, they also want to tell you how to raise your kids. Make it make sense. This is the fairy tale land that a lot of people on the left live on. And I think this is why a lot of people vote Biden. They think, hey, nothing will go wrong if we just put Biden in for another 4 years. Many of y'all can't afford Biden. Only the rich can afford Biden. But y'all claim to be, oh, we're the party against the rich. What a little crap. But anyway, we're gonna listen to a left wing commentator called David Pakman. I did a review video on him before when he was debating Vivek Ramaswamy. I think it'll be an interesting video. I'm not gonna watch his entire thing, but he has a video out there says why Joe Biden will win the election. I want to hear some of his thoughts and maybe provide some pushback if I see any opportunity to do so. So let's take a quick look.
The case to you that Donald Trump will win the election in November. And as I said during yesterday's segment, this is a thought experiment. We don't know who's going to win the election. It all depends on all of us going out and voting this fall. But the point yesterday was to show that one can make a very persuasive case that Donald Trump is going to win, that he has the clear and even obvious path to being the next president of the United States. Now, the reality is, the race will almost certainly be decided by 250,000 to 500,000 votes in 3 to 5 states.
True. I agree with that.
And when a race is this close in a country of 340 million people, there can be no obvious prediction. Those saying it is obvious one or the other candidate is going to win are not based in fact. But as I did yesterday with...
So before he continues, I have to agree with him on that. Is that end of the day, we all don't know what's going on. We're all speculating at the end of the day. But there's some signals that you can make cases for why one could win over the other. And I believe even with Trump, right? I always said that whoever can get closer to their 2020 numbers will win the race. And I see that with Biden, there's not enough enthusiasm for people to go out and voting for Biden. There's some people are like not enthusiastic to vote Biden. You got black men out here saying, I'm voting Trump. There's a lot of energy behind Trump. There's a lot of enthusiasm to vote for Trump, especially after the guilty verdict, which empowered people to vote more for Trump because it was unfairly tried. Like nobody on the left can actually properly defend the guilty verdict against them. Is this actual justice? To be judged by people that's 95 ideologically opposed to you? Sounds more like a crucifixion than a justice verdict. Justice, if justice was served by a jury where it was a moderate state, even a Republican state, the verdict will be unquestioned. But that's what a lot of people on the left don't seem to understand, right? I'm gonna let him talk some more because I think so far we're seeing the same picture.
Trump.
Why pause?
Making the hypothetical obvious case for Trump's inevitable victory. Today, I'm going to steelman the case that it is actually President Joe Biden who will win the re-election. And the goal here is to be just as persuasive and to make just a seemingly obvious a case for Joe Biden winning in November as I did yesterday for Donald Trump. So let's get into it. Why is it so clear that Joe Biden is the one who has the easy, direct path to victory in November and not Donald Trump? Well, let's start with polling, just as I did yesterday with Donald Trump. The criminal conviction of Donald Trump has given Joe Biden a slight bump in the polls to the point where the popular vote polling is essentially a wash. The recent national polls are all showing Joe Biden up +1 or 2, or maybe it's Trump +1, or it's even a tie. And as far as the swing states go, Biden is down in many of them, as we talked about yesterday, but very much within striking distance, within the margin of error in many of the polls. And we now have new state polling post-conviction. So we'll find out very soon how much of a role the conviction is playing, but it is.
And now as of when he made this video, let's see when he made this video. Right. He made this video 2 days ago. And as of now, it seems like the verdict is a wash too. The verdict has pretty much no impact. There's only two sides to this. The verdict had no impact, or the verdict actually helped Trump. Because when you correlate that with how much he was able to fundraise after the conviction, allegedly, Trump has raised over $400 million. Trump has raised more money in a week after the conviction than he did his entire campaign for 2016. I don't think your hypothetical is accurate, but it's a hypothetical, right? It's a subjective perception about how you perceive something to go, right? It's a theory. And like I said, reality is going to show us whether our theory is right or our theory is wrong. But some theories are more plausible than others. And I think his steel manning for Joe Biden's case is already starting on the wrong foot because I already mentioned the enthusiasm gap, which is something that Biden always had a problem. Hey, your base doesn't like what you're doing, right? These free Palestine people don't like what you're doing. They don't like your position on Israel. They don't think you're doing enough on Israel, right? You got people protesting Biden in Michigan, one of the swing states that he needs to win the presidential election. Trump's in within striking distance. The more diverse the community is, the more likely Trump is gonna be to win that state. Trump's trying to so right now. Trump is focusing on solidifying his white vote because that's the vote that's really going to decide this election. Not the minority vote. Is going to be the white vote. The white vote is going to decide the 2024 election because the reason why Trump lost 2020 is because he lost some white voters in Pennsylvania. I think Arizona as well. He lost some of the white voters, and that's how he lost, even though he made gains with the minorities. So a lot of people are telling Trump, "Hey, Trump, you got to focus on the white vote, your core constituency. Yeah, it's cool. You got you're bringing more diversity to the party, but end of the day, you can't get away from your main squeeze, which is the white vote." I think that's why Vivek's not going to be VP. I think JD Vance is going to be JD Vance is going to be VP because of the fact that he comes from the Rust Belt, right? The Ohio. I think he's Ohio, right? And I think that's what Trump is trying to do. He's trying to solidify his vote with the white base, right? If I want to be racial, but really it's just rural America. Rural America is who he lost. The manufacturers. Biden was able to convince them, like, look, I'm a blue dog Democrat. I was with the labor unions, and that message kind of, I think it got to some people in Philadelphia. Now I wish they highlighted the fact that Biden flip flopped a lot on the energy thing, but hey, what's done is done. Michigan too. Michigan was another one that Biden was able to win because Trump lost some of their support. And I think if Trump puts in JD Vance, maybe even a Doug Burgum, I think Doug Burgum's going to be like, to me he's like the sleeper because I think he can cater a lot to those crowds, the Michigan American types, the Philadelphia types, because Trump needs to win one of those states to win. But I digress.
Certainly pushing some voters towards Joe Biden. And this is the critical thing. Remember that Biden doesn't even have to win all of the states he won in 2020 to get the 270 electoral votes that he needs to become president for 4 more years. Or to put it another way, Biden has a margin of error that not only does Donald Trump not have, Trump needs to get everything he got in 2020 and find more states to take from Joe Biden. And that is a much more difficult path for Trump and a much easier path for President Joe Biden to get reelected. I'll give you some examples. President Biden could lose Georgia, which he won in 2020, Arizona, which he won in 2020, and Nevada, which he won in 2020, and still win the election if he holds Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And of course, there's a whole bunch of other combinations that would lead to the same outcome, which is Biden not doing as well as 2020 and still winning. That's a very strong position to be in.
I disagree with that because I don't think Biden has enthusiasm in his party. Like no one's enthusiasm. Like this enthusiasm vote is really a deciding factor because we can play as much statistical games we want. At the end of the day, human beings are unpredictable. This is why I guess trying to call politics is so fun. But this is where I'm gonna just say, and I'm gonna end it here. I'm not ending it here, but I'm gonna move on to the next thing. Is that humans are unpredictable. Like as much as we like with to think like, oh, we got it all figured out, we know exactly how it's gonna go. People could throw you curveballs. People could just decide on a whim, F it, I'm voting Trump. Right? We don't know what's gonna happen. If it's a landslide victory, all this idea that it's close is out the window. And honestly, as an American, I want us to punish the Democratic Party. Honestly, I want Trump to win by a landslide so they know, hey, don't pull no ish like this again. Don't embarrass us on the national stage ever again, Biden, Democrats. Because it seems like that's the only lesson that Democrats understand. Now I want to go into his comment section because I think it gives you some insights of how people like perception is different from yours, right? Like I can't even fathom how any of this makes sense, but people just this year there's election between a political party, a cult, and a guy with a worm in his brain, right? So the perception is Trump. Oh, you're in a cult. You're in a mega cult. Makes no argument to me. Like, okay, what's the result of the policies? Some guy in the comment section says, "How could it be so close between the president and the convicted felon?" Because the convicted felon, 400 likes, because the convicted felon was unjustly convicted. Look at how much money he was able to raise. Look at public perception. But do you think this person is paying attention to that? No. Liberals always talk about how they're not in an echo chamber. Oh, the far right, they're in an echo chamber. But you got media companies curating content based on your worldview, censoring people that express opinions opposing to your worldview, and you're claiming that the right wing is in an echo chamber? Yeah. What is the problem with putting him in jail? Like they would do that with anyone else. No, they wouldn't, because there's people above the law. There's people above the law. Their last names are Biden, Clinton, and Obama. Bush, just to be fair, I'll put Bush out there just to make some people happy, because I know I made some lefties rage over me saying that. No one's above the law unless you're a Democrat. Hillary Clinton, anyone? You Secretary of State, but you have private servers of confidential information in your house, and when they was going to confiscate it, you put bleach in there, and then you're going to play dumb like, oh, I didn't know. Oh, Biden was supposed to be held accountable, but they say he's old and forgetful. But then this old and forgetful old man, you want him to be president? You want him to rerun for a re-election? And when people challenge his mental acuity, the mainstream media will gaslight you and say, oh my God, you people are being ageist. You guys are ignoring Trump's gaffes, trying to make it a false equivalency. Joe Biden, this is a comment from, if you're just joining, Dave and Pakman left this commentator. I'm looking at his comment section real quick. Joe Biden needs to talk numbers and policy. He has those on his side more than anything. Now, if you're on the center, on the right, you're saying, what is this guy talking about? He got 184 likes. This is what some people see. This is what some people see in Biden. Now, this is not my interpretation. I'm just showing you what I see. There's people who think that if Joe Biden talks numbers and policy, he has those on his side during the debate. When I just showed you how Biden's policies is helping the U.S. lose $250 billion, which is kind of hurting our economy, which is really hurting our economy, right? Fueling inflation, making all the costs rise across the board. Leftists don't see the cascade effect, but he thinks he can win on the policy. My question will be, what policies? But this is the left. This is what people see in Biden. There's some voters out there that see that Biden has the issues in his side and the numbers on his side. I just did this so people don't say I made this up. So, it's going to be a tough one. I want to hit at the illegal immigration point to end off this video, because I've been getting a lot of people on the left's commentary, because as we see, some voters see in Biden is that a compassionate, careful leader who care about the world's issues, when it's not in his control. It's not in his power to fix the world's problems. As a conservative, I believe that it is not asylum. Asylum isn't a right. It's a privilege. It's not a right. You don't have a right to someone else's country. You don't have a right to citizenship. Look at all these other foreign countries like Dubai, Europe. You don't just walk up and be like, oh, make me a citizen now. There's some countries where you will never become a citizen. But America, where, hey, all we ask is you assimilate to our culture, you abide by our principles, you learn about our country's history, and you stand for it, you defend this country, and you become an American citizen. Now we're letting people who actively hate this country, usually white liberals, but liberals in general, who are citizens of a country that they hate. Make it make sense. Back in the day, in the 1920s, right? People used to revoke their citizenship, say, I'm a socialist. I'm going to go live in Africa. This is W.E. Du Bois, by the way. I'm going to live in Africa because America does not like my kind, aka a black man. I revoke my citizenship and I'm going to go to Africa. The left used to do that. Now the modern left, they become citizens of a country they hate just to vote for its own destruction. And this is why I say, hey, look, when Abraham Lincoln said a house divided cannot stand, this is what he was talking about. Because how you can hate something so much, but you still want to participate in this voting? Oh, we can make it better. No, you're not. Your policies are making everything worse. But there's some voters who see in Biden that he has better policies than Trump. Tell me, as an American, let's take your political party out of it. As an American, how does Biden policies actually make your situation better? How do you benefit from Democrats' approach to solving the issues and problems that we have in our country? Let's take a look. We're going to take a look of how with this old video with Ted Cruz talking with Michael Knowles about the benefits that Democrats get from illegal immigration, because there's some people who need it to get broken down. And this 5-minute clip, I think, is a perfect synopsis of that. Let's take a look.
Let's assume you're Chuck Schumer's political strategist. Yeah. And your objective is stay in power forever. What do you want to do? You want to, number one, change the electorate. You want to change who's voting. What's the easiest way to do that?
Illegal immigration.
But not just illegal immigration, make everyone here illegally citizens.
Yes.
The estimates vary, 11 million, 12 million. I've seen estimates as high as 18, 20 million people here illegally. No one really knows.
Because we're not able to document them. And you don't think that's a risk as an American? Let's take politics out of it. As an American, is that not a risk? Is that a national security risk that you don't even know how many people illegally, or let's put it a different way, broke into your country? Because that's what it is. If someone broke into your front door and they're hiding in your house, you won't feel safe in that house, right? Random stuff go missing. You realize the toilet paper finishes 5 days earlier than you intended it to, because resources are being used, but you don't know who's extracting it from, right? Someone broke into your house and they're hiding somewhere in your house. Let's say you have a mansion, and there's hidden passages in the house you don't know about, because that's a country. And you're like, yo, I swear I put enough toilet paper to last us a week, and it only lasts us 2 days. What's the hell's going on? Because you don't know how many people are actually in the house, so you can't adequately provide the resources that will help the entire house, because you don't know who's in there. This is the same thing with illegal immigration, but one person does. One person's like, yo, I don't care. These people help me boost my population numbers. These people give my blue states more electoral power, aka more points on the electoral college board. That's why California is so big. Right? They utilize illegal immigration to grow their population, their consensus, and they get more seats in the House because of it. From people who do not vote. This is why Republicans say, hey, we want to take non-Americans out of the census. We don't want to count non-Americans in the census. Why? Because you're giving people political power when they can't really act on it. Just the mere fact that they live in your state automatically bolsters the already existing voting base there, which is that's not right. Imagine people are allowed to vote, right? Let's say you got 50 Americans, both sides got 50 Americans, and one side gets 100 illegal immigrants on their state, and you only get 25, and yet the seats are disproportionately represented. So their state fill up more of the seats, more of the representations of power, while yours only get a small minority. But you have the same equal amount of American populations in your city. Is that fair or no? That's not fair. That's not a fair system. That's not fair. And when Republicans want to fix it, Democrats push back. Why? Because Democrats benefit from it. But Democrats has a political gain from it. As an American, does that sound beneficial to an American citizenry? That people can essentially give themselves more political weight. They can make their vote more politically powerful because they're illegally housing people into their state, sanctuary cities, jurisdictions where they don't have to comply with ICE. I uh, I think the Democrats are playing with fire here, but they don't care because they want to guarantee political power. Because at the end of the day, show me the incentive, I'll show you the outcome. If you have an incentive structure where, hey, you benefit, you get to stay in power, you could run roughshod against anybody, and you don't get any political prosecutions from it. Gavin Newsom, you pass a sorry excuse for a policy minimum wage law, and you lose the people of your state, your tax-paying state. Taxpayers lose 10,000 jobs because even though minimum wage workers are not making enough money, they still pay taxes. And Gavin Newsom passed a minimum wage law that cost them their jobs. Does that sound like that benefits Californians? No, but the damage has been done. It's politically dominated by one party rule. So the one party can do anything with no consequences because that's the only thing politicians respect, consequences. A politician won't change his approach until he loses his election. That's why I keep telling these black people and these when they keep voting Democrat. You keep voting Democrat complaining, saying they only come around every 4 years, but you keep rewarding that same party with 88% of your vote. And you wonder why they only pander and kiss your butt, tell you sweet nothings, because that's what you rewarded. Show me the incentive, I'll show you the outcome. If you put out an incentive where you say, hey, pander to me, confirm all my emotional feelings about racism and identity and how I'm oppressed and how I'm the biggest victim in the world, and you play into that feelings, you tell me what I want to hear, and I shell out 88% of the vote for you, that's what they're going to keep doing. And you complain, you bitch, you moan, you complain about how you're in an abusive relationship with the Democratic Party, but you continue voting for them even against your own best interest with the illegal immigration point. They keep lying to you saying, oh, if you worry about illegal immigration, you're a white supremacist, when in reality, immigrants are going to quickly replace black Americans than they are white Americans. But it's a white supremacy talking point if you talk about replacement theory. How does illegal immigration benefits Americans? It doesn't. A mass immigration can come in and take over a whole area. I'm going to take an example. Vermont. I think Vermont's like one of the smallest states in our union. Vermont has like 400,000 people. Biden, I think, he has 20 million. He had 20 million border crossings in his administration. 20 million. That means if all the migrants went to Vermont, overnight they take over that state. This is why some conservatives call the illegal immigration crisis that's going on right now an invasion. Because essentially, depending on how they funnel these illegal migrants, Joe Biden just gave 350,000 of them amnesty, aka, hey, I'm just going to cancel your asylum case, but I'm not going to deport you. Essentially saying, hey, you can stay here, creating an incentive. And are you going to incentivize people to continue showing up to the border or not show up to the border? If you heard, hey, someone broke into your house and you did nothing to them, they're going to invite more of their friends to come into the house and say, hey, come over here. This Jew's just letting us all stay in this house. That's how the world is treating our border right now. And as a conservative, I believe that asylum is not a human right. You're not entitled to my country. It's within our right to accept or deny entry or membership into the United States of America. And it's not selfish, it's proactive. Because at the end of the day, if we can't manage this country, all these illegal immigrants are doing is putting a burden on the system. And when they finish this, like, imagine this. We don't have enough resources to go around to fix the world's problems. Because I think the population of the world is in the billions. If 1 billion people come into our country and they wreck the system, they destroy the system, we can't handle it, we go bankrupt, America's done. We'll be added into the poverty. 400 million people will be added into the world poverty. And no one will be safe. This is the part, like, you have to help yourself before you can help someone else. This is the approach that conservatives are taking. When people say, what are you conserving? I'm conserving America's integrity. I'm conserving America's sovereignty. I'm conserving America's interest to look out for itself. Because right now we're being treated like a slave state, bro. Like a slave country. Our tax dollars fund everything, but we get no benefit from it. We ask our politicians, hey, secure the border. Biden does a half-assed measure talking about, okay, after it hits a certain amount of people, then we'll start turning people away. But you're still letting people in. You're still letting people come into this country and get some of our government benefits, our resources. That could have been going to veterans, homeless people. I'd rather they go to them than some foreigner who just came in here because he wanted a better life and he felt entitled to my country. This is the biggest difference between a conservative voter and a liberal voter when it comes to immigration. One believes that, oh, we got to look out for human rights. It's a human right for us to, don't you feel sorry for these people? Yeah, I feel bad for these people, but at the end of the day, these people cost. They have a cost. Fair or unfair, they have a cause. The same way you don't just take up homeless people and just shelter them in your house, because at the end of the day, you're trying to make ends meet, and you know that if you put another mouth to feed in the house, it's going to be a drain on your resources. But for some reason, we don't think the same way for our country, for our tax revenue, for our tax dollars. And they hear printing more money, causing more inflation, because end result, that's the cost of free. That's the cost of government benefits, inflation. Because so welfare, social security, those things cost the most money. And the more promises the government make, the more ways they have to figure out how they're going to pay for it. And when they don't have enough tax revenue to actually pay for these government programs, these social programs or social welfare programs, they print the money. And when you print the money, you get what? Inflation. It's a cascade effect. But politicians don't care because they just kick the can down the road. Let the next generation deal with that. We used to come from a culture where we tried to leave the country better than how we found it. Now, in our current cultural, political climate, we're going to leave the country worse than how we found it. Baby boomers had a better America than the millennials did. Baby boomers still in charge, by the way. Millennials are about to leave an even worse country after the baby boomers finally give up power. It's going to be it's going to be on a downward tilt, because in my generation, I'm a millennial, socialism is just as popular as capitalism. So imagine if America actually becomes the United States of socialism. Gen Alpha is screwed. They're gonna have a worse country than we had it, because no one wants to make a sacrifice. No one wants to be like, no, we're gonna be the generation that sacrifice for the greater good of future Americans. Because a lot of these leftists, this is why socialists don't have kids. They have yours. They don't have to think about the future. They can think about the present. What benefits them right now? Social Security benefits me right now. I don't care if there's going to be a population collapse, as long as I get my Social Security, as long as I get my refund. I don't care what happens to the future generation of Americans, because you don't got no kids. So you don't have no vested interest in the future. That's the problem with the left. This is the problem with Democrats. Their voters are short-term thinkers, while conservatives tend to be long-term thinkers, because conservatives tend to have children. And when you have children, you have a vested interest in what kind of country I'm going to leave my son behind. Conservatives are more likely to think about the long term because they have kids usually. They have family. Their political compass is tied in with duty and responsibility, while liberalism is based on individuality and consent. I didn't consent to be part of this country. Yes, but you got to benefit from all the opportunities, the environment, the moral foundations, all the advantages. You get to reap it, but then you don't want to pay. You don't have any duty to it. Oh, we got to change this, but you're going to make a worse off country. Who cares? I already got the benefit from this country. And then I'm going to leave a worse country off. Short-term thinking. Oh, well, let's give everyone universal health care. Then you find out universal health care is actually rationed health care. AKA, hey, this person's on life support and he's costing us too much money. He has a low probability of making it. Cut him off life support. against the people's will. No, you can't say no. You're not paying for it. The government's paying for it. So the government gets to decide who lives or dies because they're like, yo, we need these resources focused on people who can actually live. While currently, as imperfect as our healthcare system is, you can go in, if you want to go into millions and millions of dollars in debt to keep your kid alive, you can do that. And I think the reason why our healthcare system is so bad is because we're doing this hybrid system, overregulated, and then you got the private market. So the private market is like, to compete with them, we have to make it more expensive. This is why only the rich can afford good healthcare in this country, because it's so overregulated. And I believe that if we allow the healthcare system to be more privatized, it'll be cheaper. It's not going to be free, but it will be cheaper. Privatizing healthcare will make cheap healthcare. Nationalizing healthcare, make it free. But you give up something, you trade something. If it's free, you have no control over it. That means you get a one-size-fit-all solution, right? Everyone pays expensive premium, right? Because this is the funny part about nationalized healthcare. It's not fair. Because as a healthy person, like I'm pretty healthy. As a healthy person, I'm gonna utilize the healthcare system less than an unhealthy person, but me and them pay the same. Make it make sense. You're gonna take a lot of money. You're gonna take a lot of money out of my pocket for taxes, so that way we both pay free. But this person's utilizing it more than I am. That don't sound fair to me. That's nationalized healthcare for you. Look at Britain. Britain complained about the inefficiencies of their healthcare system. I read a story how a baby was on life support and the parents wanted to save it, and they said, "Hey, let us move our kid from life support to Rome, I think." And Rome was willing to give him a citizenship and everything. And the UK government said, "Nah." And they killed the kid. They let the kid die. Because the government got to decide whether your kid gets to live or die, because the government was the one that provided the healthcare in the first place. That's the trade-off with free. You give up control. This is like, it's baffling when people sit here and they only want to listen to the desirabilities of a policy instead of the feasibility, instead of the actuality of a policy. And I think this is the game that a lot of voters see in Biden. Biden talks a lot of big game about, oh, how great his policies are, but then he only talks about the desirability of the policies. Oh, everyone wants student loan forgiveness. Everyone wants to be able to bring migrants into their house. Don't you want to be a good person? Let the migrants in. But then people realize, oh, these migrants are taking up spaces in my hotels. They're taking up spaces in my public schools. They're kicking out my kids out of the public school that we pay for with our taxes to shelter these people. They're taking resources away from us. Yes, because resources are finite. We don't have an unlimited amount of resources. So that means if people are coming in that's not really contributing to the system, they're only going to be a what? Drain on the system. But somehow the Democrats, the only reason Democrats are allowing this is because they gain politically from it. They get more congressional seats, aka more representation for their vote. And in the future, when they amnesty these people live for 5 years, they end up becoming Democratic voters. Statistically, the statistics are on their side that most of these illegal immigrants that got amnestied and then became citizens will vote Democrat. And then the Democrats can cater to this group. Like, this is globalism. This is why I'm not a fan of globalism. Globalism says, oh no, y'all just pieces on the checkboard. Hey, we're trying to solve world poverty. And there's stats out there that show that even if you might immigrate 1 million people a year, you will not solve world poverty, because these poor people I'm talking about global poverty, not if you're in the hood in St. Louis. I'm talking about global poverty, like you're starving in Africa. If you migrate all the poor people and you distribute them across the country, they'll destroy the economies of all the world powers, because you don't have enough resources to actually fund these, to make these people have a better life. The best solution for all of us globally, if you want to solve global poverty, is you have to create an incentive where the people will stay in their countries and actually stay back and actually develop their countries to actually compete, make their countries at the same level as America, the UK, these first world countries. But then that'll hurt us too, right? There's the trade-offs. because then we won't get to benefit from the brightest minds from from other countries coming into our United States. That's what give us the competitive advantage because we have a good economy. Because if you're a smart, intelligent, and a person with ability, we want you here. We'll legally migrate you over here. We'll give you a visa so you can work here. And that's how we've been benefiting from globalism. This is why a lot of people still like migration because we can import a work group. If our population ain't producing enough engineers, we can go to India, China, Asia, and pull them over here and say, "Hey, come work for us. Here's a work visa." But if those people decide, no, I want to build up India to become a world superpower, we lose out on their talent. But to me, as a nationalist, I'd rather take that trade off because end of the day, if people are not pulling their own weight, if the world doesn't pull their own weight, you're gonna be a burden on other people. And unfortunately, that's how I'm starting to see illegal immigration. Venezuela let out all their prisoners and said, go immigrate to America. And then these gang members from Venezuela are now shooting up cops in New York, causing violence and crime in New York, squatting in people's house, making TikToks about how you can just take their property because they're not giving us a luxury feel. Mexican immigrants are disappointed with America. They're like, oh my God, it's so cold over here because they went to Chicago. Feeling entitled. Imagine the entitlement. You come to a country, you came here illegally, and they put you in those cage shelters, whatever. And you're mad that like, oh, they didn't put me in a fancy hotel. With what money? New York went into $1 billion shortfall, taking in the migrants they took in. I know I went on a rant. So I'll let Ted Cruz finish explaining his point about how Democrats benefit from illegal immigration.
But I think right at the top of the priority list is make as many illegal aliens as possible citizens and voters instantaneously.
Because those new voters are much more likely to vote for Democrats.
I think they're convinced they will vote Democratic.
And I have some Democrats that like Democrat friends that pretend that, oh no, that's not the case. They just doing it out of the kindness of their heart. Yeah, okay. And you became a doctor out of the kindness of your heart. That too, you have purpose to be a doctor, but you can't deny that there's another incentive for why you wanted to be a doctor. Same case with politics. But the left like to pretend like this is my problem with virtue signaling. Because in reality, you're virtually signaling because you're trying to prove that you're better than the other person. I'm making the same argument that atheists, leftists like to make about Christian on the right. Oh, you saying I pray for you is a condescending way of being condescending towards us. And yeah, you virtue signaling about how we need to do better for black communities and all this disparities and inequity. We need to make things more equitable. You're doing the same thing. But they don't see it that way. And that's the problem. We're not standing on truth. We're standing on narratives. And that's what deciding the election, not the truth. Because to arrive at the truth, you have to have a common foundation. And we don't have a common foundation in this country. Right now, this country is about party over country right now. If we were more nationalistic, if we were more patriotic, the Democrats wouldn't be able to get away with what they're doing with the illegal immigration. Every American in the United States will see this as a threat to the integrity of America. Oh, you're importing people with different values of different culture who don't want to assimilate into our culture because what's the first step of assimilation is compliance. What's the first compliant rule you have to do? Follow the rules. You broke into the country. Who's more likely to assimilate to American culture? A legal immigrant who came in here, did everything the right way, or an illegal immigrant that took shortcuts and broke into the law and broke into this country illegally? Who's more likely to assimilate? The legal immigrant, because he did everything the right way. He respected the procedures and the process and the guidelines of America. They're more likely to assimilate to America's culture than someone who came here illegally, broke the rules, went around the back door, and then has the goal to demand, oh, I need a work permit. I want a better life for myself. You guys, why? I want better food. I don't want to eat this crap. $10,000 debit cards. Anyone who remember that? New York caused an outrage. All the Democrats looked at Trump like, I might vote for you. I might vote for you. That day, people realized, oh, This is what they're talking about. Oh, this is what the right was talking about, replacement theory. Instead of focusing on you, America, they focus on them because they see them as Democrat voters pouring into this. That's how Democrats see it. They see illegal immigrants as a future Democratic voter coming in. They see, oh, more congressional seats, more House seats, more political power. Oh, yes. It's like seeing money coming down a treadmill. You're like, oh my God, I'm just counting. I'm counting. I'm gonna be rich. Protect our democracy means protect our power. That's the Democrats. I'm gonna. But you're a conspiracy theory, or you're a white nationalist if you say that replacement theory is a threat to Americans. No, I'm a nationalist. Yes, you can make that argument. You're a nationalist for saying that these illegals are going to replace you. Yes, because they can. Vermont only has 400,000 people in that state. And illegals, 20 million illegals cross the border illegally. That means if all the illegal immigrants decided, hey, we want to take over a state, they can go to Vermont and take it over overnight if they wanted to. But keep pretending that, it's a conspiracy or replacement theory is a white nationalist talking point, white supremacy talking point, when minorities will be the first one to get replaced. 20 million migrants in 1 year? If you let Biden keep going, shoot. They'll be their own voting block. And they have no problem having kids too. Anchor babies? Huh. They're incentivized to have children too. I'm just saying. There's a rational concern, and it's not based on bigotry, xenophobia. It's based on politics. The politics is, hey, you're a politician, Democrat. You're an American politician, Democrat. You're supposed to be looking out for America's interest. You can have a different approach of solving or giving us a better life as Americans, but you have to look out for America's interest, Democrat. The fact that Democrats put their own political gain over the betterment of their countrymen, aka their country, aka their community. To me, if you vote Democrat, you're a traitor to your country. That's just how I'm thinking. That's just me. You're a traitor to your country if you vote Democrat. So you're telling me that as a political party, you benefit from outsiders coming into this. You give them amnesty. You give them special treatment. You give them our tax dollars that we paid 100% of the cost, and they paid nothing into. You're giving them all this stuff, and you get more congressional seats. You get more political. All of America, if we were unified as one country, as one nation under God, the Democrats would have lost power a long time ago, but we're not, because they got us focusing on identity politics. That's why I say identity politics was the worst thing to happen in politics, in American politics. That's why they focus on it so much. That's why Democrats push identity politics so much, because it makes you distracted. It distracts you. The real threat is not each other. It's not a black American versus white American versus Asian American versus Hispanic American. It's not us. It's literally them using these guys as political pawns to get complete political dominance and power. And then once they get America like they get California, they're going to treat you like peasants. And that's the reality. The Democrats are trying to make themselves a nobility class. You already see it. No one's above the law unless you're Clinton, unless you're a Biden. You already see it. They're treating their kids like nobility, like noblemen. You know how noblemen back in the day, they used to be able to kill a peasant, and then the peasants are scared because they know that the duke's son won't get any punishment because he's the duke's son. The Democrats are really trying to recreate this whole thing again by using the illegal immigrants, the peasant class. Hey, come here. They don't have skills to sustain themselves in this economy. Imagine Native Americans are struggling in this economy. What do you think an illegal immigrant is going to do? They're going to have to bunch up each other. They all got to live 5 in a 1-bedroom house to afford it. Cost of living is out the chain for Americans. So how is it like moral? How is it justified to make people that's coming from poor countries statistically less likely to have a high income skill to make a self-sustaining living here in the United States? You're setting them up for poverty. You're setting them up to be dependent on the system. How can you make a moral argument for illegal immigration? I can't. We can't even take care of our homeless, but you want us to bring in illegal immigrants. Make it make sense, Democrats. Political gain. But they, they'll piss on your leg and say that it's raining. That's the Democrats' message. The gaslighting party. That's the Democrats. But I'm supposed to take this party seriously. They put Joe Biden in my face telling me he's sharper than attack. He's so sharp, you get close to him, you might get cut up in half. But every time I see a video of him, he's unaware, aloof, spacing out, has to be guided by his wife to lead him where he needs to go. Got to get a note card telling him, talk to CNN. Don't forget to say hello. The stairs is on your left side. Careful not to fall. He got to get note cards like that. But he's sharper than attack. And if you don't believe this, you're a science denier. You don't see reality. You don't see the truth. No, I don't see a narrative. I think I fixed it for you, mainstream media. The truth does not have a leftist bias. Narrative has a leftist bias. And you try to make the narrative seem like the truth, when in reality it's not. It's just your perception. And the mainstream media want America to have this perception. And I think that's the difference between the right and the left. And I think I went on this long-ass rant just to make this point. But the point is, the right tries to show you and prove to you that they have the objective proof on their side, while the left only focuses on getting you to believe a narrative. They want you to believe a narrative, while the conservatives seem to want you to let you know the truth, right? This is the truth. What Ted Cruz saying here is the truth, right?
And by the way, that's not true with Hispanic voters generally. I mean, in Texas, right. I get over 40% of the Hispanic vote in Texas. Yeah. I did in 2012. I did in 2018. But those are legal Hispanic citizens.
Very
those are people who followed the rules. The Democrats have gone all in on gambling that illegal aliens are going to vote Democrat.
So that's a big structural change, ending the filibuster, and then through that, if they control everything, you get amnesty for maybe tens of millions of people.
And think about the voting consequences. Where are illegal aliens concentrated? Florida.
Yeah.
Florida turns bright blue and never votes Republican again. Texas becomes a Democratic state.
No, doesn't that sound like that politically benefits the Democrats? If I make overnight all these illegal immigrants, I amnesty them, I absolve them of all their asylum cases, all their cases, whatever, I naturalize them, they become naturalized citizens, bam, overnight, I win your state. Because I was able to import those voters. Is my Vermont example. Vermont only has 400,000 people. I'm going to keep putting this point in your face. Because that's more people cross the border in a month than Vermont has in its entire population. Those people can go in there and take over Vermont. Now, I bet you, if these illegal immigrants were disproportionately going to vote for Republicans, I bet you Democrats will be how they were in 1995 and be anti-immigration. When they were the labor union party, when they used to have far left activists cross across the Mexico border and beat up illegal immigrants that they find near the border. Oh, y'all don't remember that? Y'all don't know that Democrat history? I forgot. There's a famous guy named in California. They worship him, but this man used to be pro labor union, all this stuff, and he used to see illegal immigrants as a threat to the labor unions because they represent what? Cheap labor. And that hurted who? The American people. See, that's when the left used to make sense. They still were violent, by the way. They still they crossed the border to beat up illegal immigrants. That don't sound no different than Antifa, than BLM. Always been violent. The ends justify the means. If this is my end, I can justify illegal immigration. That's the Democratic Party. And I need more. America needs to wake up to them. Because this doesn't benefit anyone. If you're an American, if you're a legal immigrant, like my parents were, like many people's parents were, this does not benefit you. This is why Hispanics are trending to Donald Trump. Because they're realizing, yo, this is going to be Venezuela 2.0 if we keep it up. For this final minute, I'm going to let Ted Cruz cook, man, because this is ridiculous.
North Carolina, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico.
If Republicans lose Texas, we're never becoming president again.
It's game
right?
over. Yeah. If they do just that, let's assume they do nothing else. They enact the filibuster and they make 12 million illegal alien citizens.
That's it. Game over for us at the national level.
And you don't think Chuck Schumer and Bernie Sanders want to do that?
Right, of course.
So let's talk about the Senate. If they take the Senate, let's assume they have 51, 52 Democratic senators. I think high on their list, get more Democratic senators.
How do you get? Are you going to annex Greenland?
They won't do that.
Trump wants
mostly
that.
because they made fun of Trump for it. I have to admit, it was a very interesting idea. But you know what they can do? They can make the District of Columbia a state.
Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. And by the way, Washington, D.C. is like an 85% Democratic city.
Look, we want to expand voting rights. But expanding those voting rights always somehow benefit you, Democrat. How convenient. And let's say the Democrats say, oh, we're not trying to do that. We're not trying to use these illegal immigrants for our own political gain. We just want to help them. Okay, if you're honest, okay, then let's not count them towards the census. They don't count towards their population numbers. So you don't grow your consensual point. They'll disagree with that. They'll fight you against that. Hey, we should put these people, make them wait at Mexico, try their cases case by case, and once they pass, then accept them to come in. They don't want that. Because it goes against their actual means. They're using morality. The Democrats are using virtue to disguise a blatant attempt at solidifying political power. That's the reality. This is why a lot of people say we can't afford Biden. We can't afford Biden economically. Leadership-wise, we can't afford Biden. And we definitely can't afford Biden politically. Especially if you're a nationalist, especially if you're a patriot, especially if you care about your communities in America, because they're jockeying for power right now, and then they illegal immigrants are an ends or a means to an end, and they're using virtue, they're using their they play on your emotions to let them do this under your nose, and once it's too late, then they show their true colors. And then they want to pretend that Republicans are the authoritarian party. Now, Republicans are cowards, right? That's the claim. Like, they don't want to do nothing. They don't want to push the boat. They don't want to rock the vote because they care about people liking them too much. That's the Republicans' problem. But this is an issue, big issue. Like, I don't understand how Americans don't see it. And I think this is why people vote for Biden. Because they don't see it. They just see, oh, the Democrats are just trying to help people. But you don't know they gain something from that? And in the long, it's like we don't see long term. Like, we can't see several steps ahead. Like, okay, you put these people in. You know how they say, don't take kindness for weakness? These illegal immigrants are taking your kindness for weakness. Democrats are taking your kindness for weakness. They get you emotionally riled up. Oh, look at these Republicans. They're so xenophobic. They don't want anyone to come into this country. They believe only Americans should have rights. They don't believe that. They exaggerate as usual. What conservatives and Republicans believe is that Americans should have priority. We should take Americans into consideration first. Just like when I accept someone into my house, I take my own children and my own family into consideration first before I take you into consideration. If my wife feels uncomfortable with somebody coming into my house, I take her needs into consideration and say, hey, I can't let you do that until we work a compromise where we both are okay with the situation. Democrats are not doing that. Democrats are like, oh, I want this person into the house because I get to outvote my wife. Imagine that. America is like a father that spends more time and attention with another family than his own. And what we'll call that father, a deadbeat father. So should we call this deadbeat leadership? Because our politicians are taking the interests of foreign countries into more consideration than their own domestic issues. Name me a prominent policy or a bill that the politicians' Congress has passed and signed that actually benefited the American people. I'll wait. Biden put up a half-ass half measure for an executive order for the border, which only slows down the rate of destruction for the country, the rate of erosion of the political power and influence of the American people. I don't understand how anyone can justify this. When we say, hey, let's close the border, let's figure ourselves out first, let's get our own house in order before we open it up for everyone else. Nah. Somehow they spin it as us being hateful. Everyone wants to benefit off of America. America is spreading itself thin, giving up weapons to Ukraine, giving up weapons to Israel so they can defend their border, so they can defend their country. God forbid the American people want the politicians to do something to defend their own country, to care about its own interest. And a part of me is thinking that China's waiting for America to stretch itself thin. We're in how much debt again? $35 trillion in debt, I think. We're getting there. That means every American within the sound of my voice owes $100,000 to pay off that debt. And the government keeps putting us more and more and more into debt at an individual level. Each of us has to pay $100,000 to pay off that $34 trillion debt. And when we're saying, hey, stop the spending, hey, if I'm going to go into more debt, at least put it into something that will benefit my community, my community, aka American people. I don't care about your skin color. I'm colorblind here. If you're an American, that's the interest I care about. Instead of focusing the money on that, nah, let's send it to Israel so they can build their border wall. They got a nice, beautiful wall. I wish I had that over here. Democrats are willing to spend money for someone else's border wall. But when Trump was in office saying, hey, let's spend some money on our border wall, oh, you're wasting taxpayer dollars. But you're wasting taxpayer dollars pushing green energy that's shown to will never be cost effective enough to actually sustain our power grid. Because if solar and wind had to be used to maintain our power grid, it will be inefficient based on the amount of energy we use today. That means you will take a hit lifestyle wise if they actually get their dream of the Green Deal. If they make everything green, we'll be like California with rolling blackouts. They have to ration out energy. Hey, Miami, you're gonna have energy for 2 hours. After that, we'll shut it off and we gotta redirect energy for Orlando. They're gonna be literally doing that if we all had to rely on solar and wind. You don't know how many deaths that will cause. And this is the negative outcomes of these green energy deals. They don't take that into consideration. You know, Africa, why Africans in Africa, in the continent of Africa, why a lot of those poor countries, they have such high infant mortality rates, is because they don't have enough accessible energy to use ultrasound, right? They can't detect if a baby's too big for their mom's uterus or if the baby have any birth defects, so they can do some early interventions to increase the survivability of that baby because they don't have access to energy. And that's what oil and gas gives us. But instead of focusing on that, right, that's a good point of why we should keep drill baby drill. That's why people like drill baby drill, because in a day, oil is still the most cost-effective energy source. The only thing that's close to it is nuclear energy, and they don't like that either because they want you to go a certain path. Why? Because they benefit from it. And Americans need to understand that we need to become more politically informed as a group. Because I bet you, right? I think the founding fathers warned us of this. If the American people are not vigilant, the government will become like a wolf. And don't the Democrats look like a wolf right now? They chomping at the bit, biting like this. Can't wait. You put him in office, instant amnesty. Oh, he already did 350 last term. No, that's it. It's his last rodeo. Oh my God. We barely survived the first time. My argument is, hey, you want to hear the best argument why not to vote Biden? If you're an American, statistically, you can't afford Biden. No one, if you're not rich, if you're not the top 20%, you can't afford Biden. That's the truth. That's the reason why you shouldn't vote Biden. You can't afford him. I don't care about your race. I don't care about your sexuality. I don't care about your gender. You can't afford Biden. Because you already got a taste of him 4 years. He had, I think, 2022, I think it was, when he passed the Inflation Reduction Act. There's a reason why he had to reduce the inflation that he was getting. It was rising too fast. Cost of living is higher. Right now, you're paying 30% more for fast food compared to 2019. You can't afford Biden. I can say that with confidence. Because only the rich got richer under Biden. Because inflation, rich, the wealthy, they own assets. Assets increase with inflation. That's why many people of the rich defend Biden. That's why many rich people say, oh, you guys are exaggerating about inflation. Inflation's fine. What are you guys talking about, Bill Maher? Mark Cuban? They benefit off of Joe Biden's economy. This is why they say the economy is strong. What are y'all talking about? But how about that cost of living, though? They don't talk about that, though. But they'll gaslight you when polls come out saying Americans says that we are in a recession. Here's reasons why we're not. Look at the job numbers. 25% of the job numbers are being fueled by government jobs, aka your tax money is used to create jobs, which means it's a net negative. If I'm paying $100 into taxes, right, and I want to find another job, and someone say, "Oh, I pay you $100 an hour," oh, is that? Oh, I'm gonna take that job. You find out it's a government job. My money's coming back to me. There was no growth there. But that's how they fudge the numbers to pretend that they have a strong economy. But college graduates know they don't have a strong economy because it's hard as a graduate to find a job right now. No one can move jobs. Everyone feel like they need to protect their jobs right now. People busting their butts to keep their jobs right now because it's hard to move. Does that sound like a strong economy to you? But the mainstream media, they're telling you, right? The mainstream media, that's overwhelmingly of the left. They're sitting back and telling you, oh no, the economy is strong. The economy is strong. The truth has a liberal bias. They just telling themselves. The truth has no bias. All the mainstream media did was expose theirs. And I'm glad more people are waking up to this. But hey, I digress. Damn, I've been going hard for about an hour and 41 minutes. So I'm gonna leave it at there. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know guys in the chat. I really appreciate you guys for watching the live stream. I really do appreciate you guys. Don't forget to like the video on your way out. It really does help me bring more attention to my live stream, my videos. I do appreciate you guys watching to the end. Shout out to the 7 people that are watching this live stream till the end. I really do appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I'll catch you guys next week on Live with Kenny. Peace.